And welcome back to the Ultra Running Guys. You got Jeremy Reynolds and Jeff Winchester of the Ultra Running Guys. And the reason that we're here is to help you take your next step in your ultra running journey. If it's your first time joining us, thank you so much. We appreciate you stopping by. And you should know that we've got a standard show where we have guests that we talk about all kinds of stuff. And then a while back, we started this series, which is the Race Spotlight series, where we bring on race directors. You get to hear directly from them about their race, learn all the stuff you want to know if you're going to go run it. And this one's pretty exciting because we've talked about lots of different formats, but I think you're going to enjoy this one. So Jeff, tell us what we're getting into.
Definitely lots of different formats. I was thinking the same thing. So variety is the spice of life in the ultra world game, if you will. So this race is located in the small town of Lillington, North Carolina. For those of us who have no idea where that is, it's about an hour outside of Raleigh. And so it is called the Cape Fear 24-hour endurance run. Now, I personally have been aware of this race for a long time, but this race was actually recommended to us by Emily Lyons for us to spotlight it.
Previous guest.
A previous guest of ours. She's actually about to run Badwater as well. And she has run this race a few times herself. The course itself is 0.59 mile asphalt paved loop. It is USATF certified and sanctioned. Again, a little over a half-mile loop for 24 hours. To get a picture of this location, it reminds me of small town America, right? It is a paved path that runs the perimeter around a Parks and Rec baseball fields. So you can kind of visualize that if you think about it. It's got a relatively small incline, overall pretty flat. As you think about it, the current course record is 130.78 miles. That was set last year in 2023. By William Gunn, and it is 221 laps to get to that.
Whew.
It's a lot of loops, right? So if you like flat, paved, short loops where you're only about a half mile, which is key, only about a half mile from your car with the option to run as many miles as you want in 24 hours, then this is probably the race for you. Joining us today to talk about her race is the race director, Lisa McFadden, who is an accomplished ultra runner in her own right. And if you look her up, she's got over 110 races on Ultra Sign Up alone. And so we're super excited to talk to her about her race. And so Lisa, we want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We are so excited. So we saw each other last at Umstead. And again, with Emily, there's just been so much. I feel like Cape Fear is something that's talked about all the time because we're somewhat local, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's just a great local race. Lots of information we want to talk about. And I want to hear about all the different aid stations you have on this 0.5 mile right? Mile loop.
Every 10th of a mile.
But before we get into the really tactical stuff, there's a question we like to ask at the beginning. As the race director, obviously you put a lot of time and effort in this. What is your personal favorite thing about Cape Fear 24-hour?
My personal favorite is it's the people and the volunteers, the people that come back year after year. When I put this race on 5 years ago, it started with 63 people, and now it started selling out in year 3. And this year, looking at the list, I've got 94 of the people come or repeat runners.
Wow.
So they come back year after year, and it becomes, once you're here one time, you're part of the Cape Fear family. And so you're just going to come back and have a family reunion every year.
So neat.
So why do you think it is they keep coming back?
Oh, well, I've got a long list. So actually, when we had talked about this before, I went back on the Facebook page because I wanted to, remember why they keep coming back. A lot of people say because of the food and the drinks and the volunteers, and it's just the atmosphere, because I want to keep it fun. There's just a lot of things that I add year after year, just seeing what people are doing. And I'm like, well, let's just try this or let's try that. And a lot of it is weather driven too. So it's football season. I have a big screen TV set up. So as you're running by, looking at how many miles you have run over on one side, you just turn around and see what the scores are on the other side. So, and there's some chairs sitting up. So if you just want to take a break, you sit down and watch football.
That's great. So I know the race caps off around 150 runners, and to have it like 90 of that number being repeat, you're talking 2/3 roughly are coming back each year. That's great.
Cool. So obviously there's a lot of, this is interesting to me because talk about format in the beginning, right? So we've had a lot of looped races. We've had some guests on the show where we talked about kind of the track style race, right? The 24-hour world championships. We might get into some of that in this race in just a little bit. But it's interesting, when Jeff and I started working out together, we went, we had a group that would meet at a park in the morning, and it was a 0.6 mile loop that would go out there. And to your point, it's like you could at any time pretty much look across the way and see the people on the opposite side. So I would imagine from an energy perspective, from, you're never too far away from needs. It is pavement. What do you think? Because I think of that, I go, oh, short loop, sounds accessible, energy should be high all the time. What do you think that people may underestimate about showing up to the Cape Fair?
Well, because it's such a short loop, if you're running around, you have access to your stuff so much. You're going to underestimate how much time you're actually spending at your stuff. Because we'll have people run, oh, I'm going to get this. Oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this every half mile, a little over every half mile. You're wasting a lot of time. And so if you just think to yourself, I'm not going to do that until I run past it 5 times or something like that, but you could waste a lot of time on a short loop. And I also think there's not a whole lot of shade at certain points of the day, so it's going to get hot, and a lot of people will try to bank a lot of miles early on when they have a lot of energy, and just really should just hold off until it sort of thins out later in the day and the sun goes down, and then you can pick your miles up. But those are the 2 things. Really being on a short loop is probably the main thing.
So you said when it starts to thin out, is that because the runners either start dropping out because they're done for the day, or they are just all spreading out more because they're going slower and they're hanging out their aid station?
I think both. I think both. So this race it's geared for a lot of levels. Most time races are. So we have a lot of first-time people that come and they've only run maybe a 5K and they just want to try it out. They want to see what an ultra is like. So they'll come out and they'll do, just a half marathon. That's their goal. That's all they wanted to do. And now they're gone. And then you have the other ones that are going to be there for the entire 24 hours. So it's that good balance. So that's when it usually starts thinning out. I'd say about 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's funny because, the timed event, you can't DNF. Like you don't DNF a timed event. You just stop running and you just hang out in your car. You go home. You tell the race director, I'm not going to be here. You don't have to worry about me. So it is interesting because that format does allow for people to feel as if they can do what they want. And I do think what you're saying about the aid stations, the aid station being only 0.59 miles away every time can be a time consumer. It can take a lot of time that people waste throughout the course. And I think you would want to have a strategy going into a race like this to know that you're not going to hit your aid station every time. But it would be difficult, I think, for a lot of people to not stop.
Yeah, super interesting. As I was thinking about that, right? Because the format that I've done over the last handful of years has been the backyard, which is almost the opposite, right? It's like, you have to do loop, but you're going to have this period and you need to plan out what happens in these 8 to 12 minutes. And so I thought, okay, so that's some planning. But in this, I could see how easy it would be to be like, whatever, and show up and kind of go, it'll be there if I need it. And so I think if you're listening to this, especially if you go, whether you're beginning and you're going, I don't know what I can do, let's go figure it out. Or we'll talk about it and say, I still want to get back to it. You're trying to really see what you can get. And there are some, it is a USATF course. So you can actually qualify for world championships, but having a plan, like you said, hey, how many loops do I want to do before I stop? What should that look like? What should I carry? Because I could see me wasting all kinds of time grabbing something. So
can I ask another quick follow-up question about, I'm trying to visualize this because I've never run a loop course like this. And so is there trail etiquette on this paved path? In other words, if I'm a faster runner, which I'm not, but if I were a faster runner, do I get to be on the left?
Yes. Well, you're supposed to be able to be on the left. So what we do is Brad Smith is my timer from Clockwork Timing. And when we start the race briefing, I guess a few minutes before the race, we kind of go over that. So you're not going to be 4 people across the trail during the day, because we want those people that are coming out to put in high mileage to be able to do that. But there's also grass on both sides of the asphalt. So the slower runners, they can actually get in the grass if they need to allow that space for the faster runners.
That's nice. Cool.
Yep. All right. So as far as the aid station goes, I mean, I would guess most people can have exactly what they need, but what type of level of support do you guys provide? What can somebody expect if they're going to show up to have available at the race?
Well, when you first get there, we're going to have coffee and tea and hot chocolate and some like powdered donuts and bagels and grits and stuff like that in the morning before the race. So for the people that are camping out the night before, they'll have access to coffee at 5 a.m. And so this year we actually had a local coffee shop, Front Street Coffee. They donated the coffee. So that was even better. And then we have, during the day, I will have a menu up on a whiteboard. So people will know what's coming up, what's going to be available, and times-ish, really. So like at 10-ish, we'll have this. And so if there's something on that menu at some point that's on there that they want and it's not available yet, just ask. But we typically have all the sandwiches and the wraps and the pizzas, and then the hamburgers and hot dogs. And then later on during the day or night, we'll have the soups and the grits and mashed potatoes. And the one thing that a friend of mine who volunteers a lot, Laura Smith, she actually had made this tater tot soup. And that went over so well. And then so every year I've had it out there for the last 3 years that I probably went through 10 pounds of tater tots in all these soups. And people were asking for the recipe after the race this past year. So I had to post that out there too.
So now I'm just curious.
I have never
Tater
heard
tot
it.
Does that mean does that mean mushy potatoes and broth? Is that what
it's actually tater tots and cheese, and it's like cheddar cheese, cream of chicken soup, or cream of mushroom, whatever you want to use. And it is so good. And then you can top it with bacon bits if you want to.
It sounds healthy.
So healthy.
It actually sounds good. I'm getting hungry as we talk about it.
We need to ask for that recipe to be part of our show notes.
Yes.
We should. Yeah. Send us that recipe.
I can send that to you.
The tater tot soup. That's fantastic. Is it got a little bit of crunch to it? I have to know.
No. Unless you put some crunchy bacon bits on top.
So
I'm so distracted.
I know, right? Tater tots and end of show. We're going to make tater tots soup.
Let's go eat.
All right. So we know, being in North Carolina, weather certain types of year can always be kind of a coin toss, right? So this race takes place in October. What should people know in terms of weather? What do you guys see from year to year that people should understand?
Oh my goodness. We have seen beautiful weather, but this past year, it rained for the first 7 hours. But we have, over the years, the community has started coming together, and one of our sponsors, PHC Restoration. This was like a game changer this year in the rain. A week before the race, the owner, Katie Smith, she had sent me a text and said, "Hey, Lisa, I was looking at the forecast. It looks like there's going to be rain. Would you like us to set up a drying chamber?" And I'm like, "What's a drying chamber?" So I'm Googling this before I even respond to her. And I'm like, "Oh, this sounds fantastic." Yes, but what it was is they came and set up a tent that took out all the humidity and put these fans in there with these shelves and racks. So during the rain or whatever, people could change their shoes, put them in this drying chamber and hang their clothes up, and it would dry it out. And a few hours later, they just go get their stuff. It was amazing.
I need this for my house after a run.
I am astounded right now. Like, I've never heard of that.
What a great connection to have.
What a great sponsor.
Yeah.
I know.
That is a proactive sponsor too, to actually look at that and come to you with that idea. Like, kudos to them, and we would like to give them our name.
Yeah. They are fantastic. And it was the first year that so they have sponsored us for a couple of years, but this is the first time they were able to come to the race. And so they actually got to participate, use the drying chamber. And
that's so good. And it had to make such a difference for people, especially with the weather being the way that it was.
It's just a touch. I mean, it's just a nice touch.
So
and it's something you add to the race, and I'm like, now y'all can't take this away.
So in terms of October, though, what's kind of like the lowest temperatures you've seen, and then maybe on an off year, because we can still have some pretty warm weather in October.
Yes, we've seen temperatures up in probably the upper 70s a couple of years ago, because we ended up filling up buckets of ice and taking our bar towels and cutting them and handing them out as rags to cool runners and stuff off. So it was in the upper 70s. The coldest, I think, not as cold as I'd like it to be, but it's more like maybe in the low 60s at night, maybe in the upper 40s is the lowest it's been. But it's not been terrible. The rain this past year, I think, was the worst year.
Yeah. We did a race in October. So, and one thing people understand, and this is definitely not a detractor, but October is technically still kind of the end of that hurricane season, right? So you can get these storms that come through and drench like we saw, and it sounds like you saw. What, in terms of the course itself, as far as sun exposure, is it any shade along the way, or is it mainly exposed?
Mainly exposed. There's one on the one side of the course. It runs parallel to a wooded area, and so if you're really close to that, there's a little bit of overhang there. But other than that, it's exposed.
So it's good for people to plan.
Yeah.
Yes, and we do have sunscreen and stuff at the aid station in case they forget it.
So I want to go back to something you said about the aid stations. You said you have a menu available for them to let runners know what's upcoming, which is a great thing. We've talked to a couple other race directors that do something very similar, and it's a good feature, I think, for runners who can start thinking in advance, like, I'm getting hungry, and it reminds them of things they need to be thinking about anyway. And then they have options, which is always, I think, super helpful. But one of the curiosities, because some race directors do this and some don't, it's not a right or wrong, but what is the crew availability for that type of option? Do they get to participate in the aid station, or do they have access to that or not?
We do allow the crews to come over there and eat stuff if they need something. Yes. For this past year was the only year that I ran out of pizza. Normally I have like 5 whole pizzas left, and I'll take them over to families that are sitting over there with like 2 kids. I'm like, you want a pizza? But yes, the crews can come over and eat some food.
That's nice.
It makes such a difference as you know, somebody who takes family, and that's what we've done, to know that. Because my daughter's always like, do they have cake? Like, that's like the one question. You're going to a race, can I get cake? I'm like, I don't know if they're going to have cake.
Well, they're there for 24 hours. Right. It's hard for them to eat out of a cooler, right? And they're like, they're cooking burgers over there. Can I at least get a burger? Like, sure.
But the park is so close to local restaurants and stuff that it's easy to get to.
Perfect.
So that's something else. If you're listening, you know, that sounds like crew can participate, but that's another big thing to know, right? If you need anything, they can run out and grab what they need. Yes. I think that's a huge benefit. Let's see, I just had a question. Help me out. I lost it.
I'm not sure where you were going.
Oh, here's what it was. Sorry for all the viewers. Okay, so we talked about the food. Kind of, it sounds like a lot of whole food type items. Some people are very particular about either liquid calories, hydration, stuff like that. Do you guys have a particular thing that you offer so people can plan to bring their own? Is there like a brand sponsor or anything?
We don't have a brand sponsor. I just go to Sam's Club and buy my stuff. Either the first or second year I was doing it, I actually reached out to Hammer and had gotten some of their stuff, but it did not go over as well as the Gatorade did. So now it's just, I get the Gatorade, and we have like chocolate milk, tea, V8, Coke, Mountain Dew, beer, just a wide variety of stuff.
Just throw that one in there, beer.
Yeah.
Bring your ID.
Oh, yeah. That was, it's a park, but so not at the aid station, behind a little camper, we have beer. And my husband actually went out. He is not a runner. He's not an ultra runner or anything. The first year we were doing this, he went out and he came back and he goes, I brought beer. I was like, good, what'd you get? He goes, I got some Bud Light and Michelob Ultra. It said Ultra. I figured y'all would drink it.
That's right.
It was the funniest thing.
Might as well just be Michelob 4 Ultras, right?
Yes.
But
we also have a party corner. Do you know Sean Wasso?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. He's there every year. He is my party corner president.
It's a good guy for that.
Party corner
Yep.
president.
So it's at some point in the day, usually closer to noon, there are shots available at the top of every hour until it runs out, which is usually around 5 or 6. And but he coordinates all of that for me. And so every lap at the top of the hour, people will gather there and take a shot and keep going.
Those people are not going to win.
I was gonna say, my recommendation is, if you're trying to get the best out of yourself, either skip that part or train with it. Because I've seen a couple a couple great friends derail a fantastic race by going, a shot, don't mind if I do.
Might as well.
Well, it's funny because Billy Gunn, who is our race course holder for 130 miles, his little aid station, where because he brings his own stuff usually, and it's really close to that party corner every year. So he's there in spirit, I think.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Maybe it's his rocket fuel.
So one thing, and we've referenced it a couple times, but I really want to hit it home. So the USATF certification. If anybody is at a place where you're wondering if you can qualify for Worlds, and just real quick, we have some great episodes on this. Right now, the qualifying standard for men is 145 miles. So this is for the 24-hour championship. For women is 130 miles. We had Diana Gorder on a little while back, and she's still kind of fresh into the space, but she's one that I think really has that potential. And so we had the discussion before the show. It sounds like this would be such a great race for her. But if you're listening and either you think, hey, maybe I could do that, or you know somebody who has that potential, point to Cape Fear, because I don't know of any other, there's a couple maybe in the region, but it sounds like this is such a good opportunity to actually make it, to those championships.
Yeah, there's one down in Charleston, and there's also another one in eastern North Carolina too, further east. I think the Tideland is also one of them. So that the Raven is and the Tideland, but those are the others in the region stuff. Yeah, but they're all hard to get into.
But what's great about this one is it's a non-technical trail.
Right.
And at nighttime, we turn the park lights on, so you don't have to worry about a headlamp, changing batteries or anything like that. Especially for me anyways, like if you're running, you got a headlamp on, sometimes that can make you a little nauseous at nighttime. So having not even having to worry about that will help too.
That's a good point. To not have to carry a headlamp, and that you've got overhead lights the entire time. That's actually a different feature, if you will, than a lot of races would have. So it's a good thing that's available for it. And it makes sense being in a park.
Well, one last question on that, because as you said that, I'm like, okay, so, this isn't a race I would think equipment or needs. But the one thing that I could see coming up, right, are having to deal with feet problems, anything like that. Do you guys have any either EMT support or, things like that for runners that are running into those types of problems?
We do not have EMT support, but this past year, Campbell University School of Osteopathic Medicine contacted me and said, hey, we're not going to do any, it was the sports medicine students. And it was the doctor. He said, we usually go with the Campbell football team and they have a bye that week. We would like to come out and do our training at your race. So we had the Campbell University's mobile medical unit set up, and they were out there addressing blisters, any little issues. They were doing their manipulative treatment where they stretch the runners out and do all their techniques that they would do. But they're going to be back again this year because it just happens to fall on a weekend that there is no football game. So awesome. We get med students, sports medical students.
So that's two examples where people have reached out to you to be a part of your race, as opposed to you as a race director having to reach out to people in the community to see if they'd be willing or interested in being a part. And the only reason I'm highlighting that is it's actually evidence of how close-knit of a community that you have built within this race environment of Lillington, right? And so that it has become a feature of the small town for this weekend, it sounds like, and that everybody wants to be a part. And they're looking for ways to come out. I mean, if you've got a school that's sending their medical students over there because they're available, they normally do football games, they're like, oh, this is something that goes on in our town. It's a big event. Let's go be a part of it.
At the same time, not taking anything away, but if your students need busted up feet, This is a great, right?
There's wins everywhere, right?
You are putting them like, hey, have I got a deal for you? Right.
Yep. And it's funny because how small towns are. And the week after the race, I took my kids to the pediatrician for their well checkup, and my twins are 12, and they were telling the pediatrician, hey, this is what we did. And she's like, my husband was one of those students out there.
Wow.
So it was word got around because she saw the boys wearing their t-shirts. And
you gotta love those connections.
This is like a great place for schools of podiatry to be a part of.
Right.
Also, not just osteopathy, the schools of podiatry should, like you were saying, is like they should all be featured on ultra running races.
Well, what we did was, even like when you're talking about students, a couple of years ago, I was having a hard time getting volunteers at certain hours, and I reached out to the local high school and I said, hey, do you have any students that need volunteer hours? And the Beta Club shows up. So I was able to, students get their volunteer hours, and medical students get to look at nasty feet and help everybody.
Good time all around.
You say nasty.
Exactly.
It's all relative.
All right. So this race sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like it's very well organized. Sounds like a good opportunity to figure out, like you said, there is no DNF, right? Figure out how to get the best out of yourself, or at least put yourself to the test. And this is where I would normally say, so go register, right? But we already mentioned it's capped at 150 people. You did mention that you sell out. So I believe you're sold out for this year, but tell us about any wait list options. And then for future races, if somebody says, okay, I want to make sure I get next time, talk us through the registration process and what people need to know.
Okay. Registration opens on January 1st. And I started this years ago just because I wanted people to register. My birthday is in January. So I give a birthday code and you get to register for how old I am. So this year I turned 50 and you get to register for $50 on January 1st only. So I post the code, I send it out in the email blast of people who registered in the past, and then that just gets spread around. So, but then after that, it's $75. And this year it actually filled up before April the 1st, which is the fastest it has ever sold out. But I've had a wait list every year, and every year, everybody that has been on the wait list that wanted in was able to get in. So I usually start sending out emails around August the 1st. Hey, have your plans changed? If they have, let me know. But I don't do deferrals or transfers or refunds, because this race is 100% a fundraiser for Buddy Backpack. So all proceeds goes to this nonprofit organization. So if you can't come, we hope you'll come back again next year, but it's a donation to Buddy Backpack.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I think it's great for people to understand that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so great that you do that. But one of the big takeaways for me is, so if you're listening, all hope is not lost, right? So go get on the wait list if you want to run, because it sounds like from historically, there's still a decent chance that you're going to have that attrition and the room may open up.
Yeah, they currently have 30 people on the wait list.
Yeah.
I looked at that.
But if you want in, get on the wait list.
Yeah. And so obviously I would imagine, because it is not a set distance, there's no kinds of qualifications, anything like that. It's really just a matter of doing some great for charity and then coming out to have a great time at a 24-hour event.
I'm taking a note. I may sign up for it.
You should.
Stop. I don't need one more, but
and I have a lot of people use it as a training run too. So if you've got something shortly after that, or if you're doing a 24-hour race before then and you don't hit that goal, I have a lot of people that will do that too. They're like, well, I didn't hit it because the weather was crappy or something came up and I had to miss it. So then they come to my race and they hit their goal or use it as a training run.
Yeah, I'm running 100 milers 2 weeks before, so I'm just
come volunteer.
Right,
nice little stretch out race. Right? You can't DNF, and you get to donate to charity.
Well, I know, but I've actually looked at this race a few times, and every time I've considered signing up for it, I've never signed up for it because it's been full, and I didn't think about the wait list as being something that would eventually get me in, because I just assumed the chances are super slim. But to hear that is very, very encouraging. So, thank you for that.
So we asked you at the beginning kind of what your favorite thing was, but I'm going to ask a little bit of a different question. What does it mean to you to have, 150 people in the community come out and do this race? What does that mean to you?
It just makes me so grateful, and it makes me proud that people want to come to small town Lillington and do this race. I started this as a fundraiser for Buddy Backpack, and I love to introduce people to the ultra world, because I have a lot of friends and acquaintances and people that are like, that's just crazy to run that many miles. And I'm like, just come, just see what you can do. And it just gets them hooked, and they're back year after year and going longer and longer and longer. And I'm very grateful and very proud that they want to come back year after year.
So good.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And the other thing, hopefully, if you listen to that, I mean, there's a couple of things that jumped out. So one, even if you're not sure that you're ready for a 24-hour, I'm sure from a volunteer opportunity or just go by, watch people do their thing. To me, those types of moments can be just as life-changing as doing the event itself, because of the way it can change kind of the mind and, thoughts of what the potential is.
And after volunteership, you can go to the party corner.
That's right.
Well, I have
One for you,
so
one for
many,
me.
I've got several runners that will run and then come volunteer for hours.
Yeah.
They'll hit whatever their training plan was for that day, come volunteer. And then I have a lot of first-time volunteers to come out and check it out. And then they're running the next year.
Yeah.
So I'm losing a lot of my good volunteers to running. And we have a lot of kids that come out that will actually do it. They're like kids of the runners, and they're like, well, can they sign up? And they ended up, they're like, well, I'm going to beat you and I'm going to beat you. And so three of my four kids are actually hit ultra distances.
That's
far.
awesome.
So
Very cool.
Well, I think that's some of the magic of ultra, right? One, it's the community. And
Yes.
so that can be life-changing alone because people find a home. But two, I think ultra is just such a great vehicle for teaching us all that we're capable of more than we thought. And a race like that allows people to even just take a little bit of time, witness it, hopefully change some mindset. But we've really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's been so informative, and you are so fun, and we appreciate your energy. We'll say bye to you in just a second. For everybody that's plugging in, again, thank you so much for taking the time. If you're finding value, tell your friends, hit the like button, subscribe, all that. We hope you join us on the other show. If you've been around for a while, your family, we love you so much and we appreciate you. But Lisa, thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Well, thank y'all for having me, and let me talk about Cape Fear.
Absolutely. We'll make sure all the information is in the show notes. Go sign up, get on the wait list, or contact Lisa so you can volunteer. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Cut.
Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the content. If you haven't already, don't forget to check out our full lineup of podcast episodes that are designed to help you take your next step in your ultra running journey.
So be sure to check the links below, and you can visit our website at theultrarunningguys.com or download your episodes on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, when in doubt, just show up.
See ya.